Welcome back to the Accessible Art History YouTube channel. For November's theme week, I'm focusing on castles across all the social media channels. So, this video is going to be a brief history of European castles. Make sure to check out Instagram and the blog for more castle fun. Castles are fortified structures that were used almost exclusively in the Middle Ages. In fact, they have become the symbol of the historical era. In general, castles were used as residences for wealthy lords and military orders, but not all residences are considered castles. They are mainly built between the 9th and 15th centuries, but there are a few outliers. In general, castles were constructed of stone, but there are records of timber being used as well. With the advent of gunpowder and better weapons technology, the use of castles steadily declined. However, in the late 18th through the 19th centuries, there was a revival of castle architecture. The earliest forms of castle architecture is called a Motte and Bailey. Not only were they fairly easy to build, but they created an easy-to-defend fortress. The first part of the construction is called a motte. This was a large platform, about 10 to 100 feet tall and about 10 to 300 feet wide, surrounded by a ditch. In fact, this is where we get the word moat from. The top of the motte would be leveled off, and the main living structure, called a keep, would be built. This gave the lord or commander the high ground, the best defensive position. The bailey of this system refers to the courtyard down the hill from the motte. This is where the non-elite members of the household lived and worked. The courtyard was surrounded by a large thick fence called a palisade. Sometimes there were two sets of baileys and palisades, depending on the defensive needs of the area. Typically, there was also a drawbridge to control access to the complex. A great example of an early castle is Cardiff Castle in Wales. It's the largest castle in the country. This castle was built by the Norman conquerors in the 11th century on the site of a 3rd century Roman fort. The motte is located in the corner, creating a massive bailey that was divided into two sections. This was excellent for defensive purposes. In fact, it was so defensible that it played a key part in multiple wars. Castles reached their peak around the 12th to 13th century. During this time, technological advances such as deeper moats, arrow slits, and curtain walls allowed for better defensive structures to be built. Many of these inventions were created by the military orders that ruled during the Crusades, like the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller. When the men returned from war, they brought these ideas with them and installed them in their own family castles. In addition, the buildings were also expanded to accommodate more people, including their families, other soldiers, and workers. Although the basic idea remained the same, more decorative elements were also added to castles at this time. This was done as a projection of both power and wealth. The interior and exterior were decorated with carvings, paintings, and other objects. One of the most famous castles in Europe is Harlick Castle. It was built by King Edward I between 1282 and 1289. This castle complex is a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of its contribution to military and architectural history. Edward I ordered it built near the water and on top of a natural hill, providing it with an excellent defensive position. The concentric design also has a double wall, meaning the enemy would have to work twice as hard to breach the keep itself. In fact, it was so effective that Harlot Castle was an important castle utilized in the War of the Roses and the English Civil War. After the advent of gunpowder, castles slowly started to fall out of use. Military and domestic spaces also began to be separated, which led to the rise of manor houses and palaces. However, in the late 18th and 19th centuries, there was a romantic revival of castles. Stories of knights and chivalry, damsels in distress, and true love captured the public imagination. The wealthiest citizens were able to make these dreams a reality. One of the most beautiful castles to come out of this was Neuschwasteen Castle in Bavaria. It was built in the 19th century under the orders of King Ludwig II. The king was inspired by the romantic stories crafted by Richard Wagner, especially that of the Swan King Lohengrin. Ludwig II identified with his character and had the castle designed to reflect that. It's a beautiful soaring masterpiece, though it likely wouldn't have been very practical in a military effort. But that wasn't the point. And one fun fact about this castle, it served as Walt Disney's inspiration for Cinderella's castle in Disneyland. This video was just a brief history of European castles. There are tons of resources out there if you want to take a deeper dive. One of my personal favorites is the video that I've linked down below and up in the eye. It's a bit cheesy, but it really explains castle construction in an easy to understand manner. And don't forget to follow Accessible Art History on Instagram at accessible.art.history for new castle each day.